Hello and welcome to Wolfman Gaming. This is my Uncharted, The Lost Legacy, Crushing Difficulty walkthrough, and this is chapter 5, also known as the Great Battle. And there is a great battle that we are gonna take on in this chapter, so I really hope you brought the Desert Eagle from chapter 4 like I told you to. Because you can do it even without it, but it makes, as I said, one section of it becomes a lot easier if you have the Desert Eagle with you. But we're not quite there yet. Because the first part of this chapter is based around platforming, as a lot of parts of this game is. And I have mixed feelings about it. On one hand, I like the lower pace of the game. As I mentioned before, I like a good story in games. And I like it when they dare to slow it down. But sometimes I think the tempo has always been the staple of the Uncharted series. Because the first 3 games were very highly paced at most times. You were basically going from one combat sequence to the next one, most of the time. Followed by small parts of exposition, most of them were in skippable cutscenes. So if you wanted to just focus on the adventure and not so much on the storytelling, you could do that. And there is also a way to do that in this game. If you have completed the game once, you can, as in all games, you can use chapter select to play whichever chapter you wish. And also, you can choose different combat sequences. And I think that is actually quite a fun function. I think they included it in Uncharted 4 as well. It wasn't in the first 3 games, I know that, and wouldn't be much point in it because most of the chapters in the old games consists of one combat sequence after the other. But it's really good if you want to, for one reason, if you want to replay certain combat. Here is something that's also recurring in this game. Just a quick note that Nadine is reaching out her hand to Chloe and Chloe grabs it. The first instance that happens is in, I think it's chapter 3, at the beginning of chapter 3. She reaches out for Chloe and Chloe refuses to take her hand and says something like, I can manage on my own or something. This time she does it, but she says like, yeah, I did just because you said please. And Nadine notes that, well, I didn't. And that is a subtle thing they put in the game just to show that, because their initial relationship to each other is that Chloe has hired Nadine. Nadine was the boss of Shoreline, as we all know, and she is a mercenary, so Chloe has hired her services to go on this treasure quest. But as they progress through India, they become more friends than associates. So that is a subtle way, quite a nice subtle way to show how their relationship grows and how they become friends and start trusting each other. Even though they meet some bumps along the way, I'm not gonna get too far into that, because, as I said, I want to keep this as spoiler-free as possible. You will get some spoilers. There's no way for me to avoid that, so I recommend, if you haven't played through this game, play through it as you're watching this walkthrough, or play through it once before you watch this walkthrough, because there will be spoilers, as there are in all walkthroughs. But as I said before I got sidetracked, you can replay certain combat sequences in this game if you want to. And I think that's quite fun, because some of the combat is really great, and if you want to, I didn't do it for this walkthrough. Instead, I just went on as tried and tried again until I got a run that I felt was consistent. But if you want to get a certain strategy or try a different strategy before a run of the game, you can skip to a certain combat sequence and try it. As I said, I think you can in chapter 4, I think you can sneak past that area. That fight that my part 2 video started with, and I'm actually gonna try it someday. And I'm gonna do that by using combat select, just see if I can do it, or if it's easy to do it on crushing, which I don't think it is, because none of the combat in this game is very easy on crushing. Actually, one fight can be, if you use the strategy I will show you, but that's in a chapter coming up. So, and let's try to avoid spoilers and enjoy this lovely scenery for a few seconds instead. We see Shiva. No, we do not. Sorry, we see Ganesha. And what's his face? And these games are a bit like, these are a bit like history lessons for dummies, because it reminds me a little bit about the God of War games. You know, in God of War games, they're based around Greek mythology, so they have taken a lot of artistic liberty with telling the story, but it also gives you a little lesson. You learn which god is which, and somewhat what relationship they have to each other.
Hey, look.
Who's the son of whom, and which one is married to which, and also angry guy with a goatee and sandals running around and killing them. And in the upcoming God of War game, we will see him tackle the Norse mythology, and I'm quite looking forward to that game, because I've always been a great fan, or a really big fan of the God of War series, so it's fun to see that they have moved away from Greece, even though I'm a bit conflicted about the fact that they have made yet another God of War game, but that seems to be, that is the staple of games nowadays. Instead of inventing new game series, a lot of developers just go for the safe cards. Can you say that in English? It's an expression in Swedish. You Swedes out there will know what I'm talking about. But they put new installments in the series that they know are successful. Ubisoft, anyone? Assassin's Creed number 273. And also Naughty Dog have said that the Uncharted series, they have hinted that there may be more games. I think they said something along the lines that it's a vast universe and they haven't experienced or explored all of it yet. But here is the puzzle game. Once again, I invite you to pause the video, because the technique I use will solve this game or this puzzle in 8 moves. There is a trophy for beating it in 10 moves or less, and for the purpose of this walkthrough, to keep the flow up, I went to YouTube, checked up the solution. Because the first time I played this game, I solved this all by my own, and it took a hell of a lot more than 10 moves. But I think it's a really fun puzzle, because you have 2 images you have to line up. And the ingenious part about it is the fact that one puzzle can be lined up, but the other one isn't. So you're gonna have to think in, yeah, I don't know how many dimensions it is, but you have to take both pictures into the configuration when you're doing this. But if you want the trophy and you want to solve this as much as possible, just mimic my moves. Because you see right now, one of the images, your goal is to get the shadows to line up with the images, of course. You see, now they're both lined up. But the left one was lined up even before the one on the right was. So you see, I got the trophy. I think it's called Shadow Puppets or Shadow Puzzle, something like that in English. My PS4 is set Swedish, so the trophy's popping. You'll see their names in Swedish. But that was a great transition, wasn't it? We went from pulling out that little disc and suddenly we broke this 1,000-year-old architecture. And this is a great sequence. I love this, because even on my second run through the game, which this really, I felt my heart racing. Because this is what one of these sequences should be like. It's very high paced, it's very adrenaline rush inducing. Think you know what I mean? But what I'm trying to say is it is very well scripted, just like an action sequence should be. And speaking of action sequences, now we have soon come up to the big fight in this chapter. Also, if you jump in the water on the right, you can unlock the trophy called Marco Po No. And that is also a recurring trophy in the series. I think it was in Uncharted 2 and 3. I think it was in Uncharted 4. I'm not 100% sure, but it is a shout out to the old games. I think there are quite a lot of references to the previous installment in the series through this entire game, which I think is really fun. I like those Easter eggs, and I think a lot of fans of the series appreciate them as well. But here is the beginning of the fight. We have two enemies right here. You will take out one, and Nadine will take out the other one. I think Nadine will take out the one on the left, so that's why I did them both. Because she is scripted to go for the left one, I took him out, but so she didn't have time, the AI didn't have time to reset her. So she would go for the one on the right. And this fight coming up, this is hard. Believe me. I was stuck here for quite a while actually, because there is a randomness to this. But we go down here, kick this guy's ass and jump in between in behind this little wall. You can see a little transition there. There is a checkpoint in this fight, but it's quite far into it. And we jump off this edge and we're gonna follow this stream around the corner. Whether you live or die, going around that corner is out of your hands. Sadly to say, I think that parts of this fight is a bit unbalanced. There is quite an RNG factor to this, and now we're soon gonna get to the part where the Desert Eagle comes into play. I'm just gonna try to shoot these guys using the Raffica. As I mentioned before, I'm not a big fan of this gun, but I use it because I don't want to waste my Desert Eagle bullets. And jumping over this gap, this is where the Desert Eagle comes into play. Because we climb up here and we're gonna be rushed by two enemies. And you see, I blind fire. I even kick the guy's corpse before he has time to fall down. And the reason the Desert Eagle is so important in that instance is that you have that giant APC mashing you from behind and they are shooting you from the front. And the amount of times I died going up there was actually, I think I died there more times than I did at any other part of this fight. So that is why the Desert Eagle is so great to have with you, because it is a one-hit kill on everything except heavies. So bring it with you, you will be glad that you did. And now I'm gonna try to use my blind firing. It's very haha, it's very hit and miss. So I resort to sticking my head out and shooting him in his, and I'm gonna try to move on further, and we are still not at the checkpoint. That is the problem with this game, and that the checkpoints are, if there are checkpoints in combat, most of the time they are spaced very far apart. And use what cover you can find to try to gun down as many enemies as possible, because they fire at you from all directions in this part. Actually, one thing that is better about this fight on Crushing is that there are less checkpoints. And the reason why that is better is that when I played through this game on normal on my first run, I think there were quite a few more checkpoints, but they seem very random, or they seemed very random at that time. So I died in a certain point, and the game moved me to a completely other point when I spawned in. So it was quite confusing getting through this area the first time, because as I said, the checkpoints seem very random. And now I'm just checking around trying to see if there are any enemies around, because the APC is actually the smallest threat, or the least threatening thing it is, because that gun is huge, but it doesn't do as much damage as the normal enemies do. And this is why it's an APC ex machina, because now he is over to my right, and quite a bit far to my right. And check what happens now. There's one guy over there. So I use my godlike aiming, shoot him straight in the head, and suddenly the APC is over here. He just defied the laws of time and space, and here is the checkpoint, just so you know. And went from being far over to my right and straight over to my left. And that is one of those because video game modes. I don't agree with that 100%, but well, gotta play the game by the game's rules, even though sometimes it cheats. And if you're hanging from that ledge that I was just hanging from, do not let go, because you will slide down and move quite a far way back. And also taking out these two guys before you move on is absolutely vital, because you will die otherwise. Because now, once again, you have that APC firing at you, and we're gonna go down where they were. So we slide down here, one guy is gonna pop down behind you, shoot him in the head, eventually. If you move up towards that edge, Nadine will jump down and take him out with melee, but when you've gotten this far, you don't want to risk it. Because while you're mantling up there, you're quite exposed, and the APC can kill you just by sheer... oh, what's it called? Just the fact that he sprays bullets constantly. I can't think of the word right now. And this is also one of those moments where the game wants you to do things a certain way. Because the game was expecting me to slide down there and hang next to Nadine. So we would stealth take down one of them each, or pull them off the ledge. And now, since I'm sitting down here, Nadine doesn't know exactly what she's supposed to do. So finally, when one of the guys is dead, she's gonna go up and get grabbed, apparently. Huh, I thought she would kill him, but okay. As always, I'm gonna have to do everything. The hero or the heroine always has to do the grunt work. And this is a dangerous area. We're still not at a checkpoint, because here comes a heavy, and the APC shot down my propane tank that I was gonna use to take him out. So I sacrifice all the bullets I have in my assault rifle. He goes down, and if he gets down to where you are, you're dead. So just spray him. And now I think there's only 2 enemies left. So I'm feeling very cautious. I was getting quite nervous because I know I'm almost at the end, and I know the checkpoint is quite far behind me. So that's why this is taking a bit longer than usual, because I really don't want to mess up at this point. Like no one does, because these guys don't rush you. They will stay behind their crates, and we need to bring the fight to them. And as I mentioned in all the combat sequences up to this, It's very important, loot through all the bodies, try to pick up as much ammo as you possibly can, and let's head for the exit. Just gonna wait for him to stop spraying for a few seconds, because we want to get up to that ledge, and the door leading out of here is right up there. So we jump up, swing around the corner. You see, his speed in firing can kill you, even though his damage output is quite nerfed compared to the other enemies. And there I just trimmed out the cutscene, and now we are down in some kind of catacombs, and we are gonna once again meet up with Asav, the main antagonist in our story. And this fight coming up is quite interesting because it's a little, what do you say, pre-fight? It's gonna teach you how Asav works. Because, spoiler alert, Asav is the final boss, and you're gonna face off against him later in the game, and this shows you how he works. Because you go into this melee fight with him, and he has an auto block system. If you try to hit him while he's facing you, he will always grab you, he will always block your shots. So what you have to do is dodge his shots or his punches until he turns his back towards you, like he did there, or he turns his attention to Nadine. You can never hit him from the front because he will auto block. So that is something you really have to remember. But he isn't very hard to take down. This fight is very short. The next time you face off against him isn't much longer. And all this is completely scripted. So all you have to do is just mash the triangle button until Nadine jumps up on his back. And now we're gonna mash it again to get his goons of us. There they go. And he uses his amazing blocking skills and sends us flying straight through the wall. And now we're in a water slide. This is adventure swimming extreme style. Ever think about going to bathhouses and you know where they have those wave machines and water slides? Well, this is how explorers do it. Well, a bit of a point deduction for the landing. And that was the action sequences of this part. Now we're back in exposition country. So we're gonna walk up these stairs, we're gonna get some more information about Asav.
To make him look harmless or smart? Both. But he is smart.
We realize that he's wearing glasses just for the sake of looking smart. And also you can see right here there is a optional conversation if you want to grab that while you're at it. Why not? Since it is in your face. And then I can say that I showed you how to get one of the collectibles in this game. And now I'm gonna make a little mistake when we get up here. I played through this game 3 times now. Once just for fun to get a feel for the game, once recording this walkthrough, and once getting the collectibles. All 3 times I make the wrong turn, which is quite amazing. Right here is a fork in the road, you're supposed to go right. Because when you go left, this is where we started this chapter.
Yeah, one sec.
So this leads back to the beginning. There is also a photo up there if you want to grab that, but make a right, do not make a left. Maybe one day I will learn how to do it. But anyway, we are very soon coming up to the end. All you have to do now is crank this wheel and you will go into chapter 6. So I want to thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in my next video. So until next time, this is the Wolfman signing off.